Hammer and Nigel on 93 WIBC.
My name is Nigel. Rob Kendall is here filling in for Jason Hammer. Many companies ordering employees back to the office. Rob, now I know you and I have been grateful enough, fortunate enough to work in radio. We've been coming into the studio this whole time for 93 WIBC ever since the pandemic hit. A lot of other radio companies have been working from home. As the country starts to open up, people are making their way back to work. Look at this survey, though, Rob. Check this out. A survey says employees at some of the country's largest and most well-known companies would rather permanently work from home than get a $30,000 a year raise.
It's fascinating data. I know we're going to have our guest on here in a second. I'd love to ask him if he thinks that people have always felt this way, or it was the experience of working from home that got them to this point.
Let's go to the drivehubler.com hotline and bring on Spencer O'Leary, the CEO of ActiveOps North America. Spencer, how are you today?
I am great, thank you. How are you both?
We're doing really well. I feel like last year in the pandemic, early in the pandemic, companies kind of started to realize, wow, hey, we could be productive at home. We are even more productive at home. I read several articles and stories published like that. Now I feel the tide has turned a little bit and companies are saying, well, now it's really kind of time to come back to work in person. What do you think's going on here?
And I think most companies are starting to see that. There needs to be a change. So 2019, we had most people who went to the office to work every day, and then we all had to change in early 2020, and we got 100% for most organizations, certainly of the big names mentioned in this survey, who sent their employees from home and were concerned about a number of different metrics, but one of them was certainly productivity. And as you just said, we saw for a lot of businesses, productivity rose when people started working from home. And the power sort of turned to the employee rather than the employer. And lots of individuals are now saying, I was more productive from home. I want to continue working from home. When I've looked at the cost of me going to the office, it's not just the time cost or the travel cost. My life's changed. I now spend some of my day looking after my children or looking after my aging parents. And if I take all of that cost out, as well as my travel cost, as well as I don't need to wear a suit to the office every day, suddenly I'm probably $30,000 better off by staying at home, and I enjoy the experience more. So the power's gone back to the employee, and the employers are starting to offer these big pay rises. There was another survey this week where 40% of people who were interviewed said that they would quit their job and go and work somewhere else if their employer didn't accommodate an ongoing flexible work approach.
Spencer, one of the things that I'm concerned about, we work here in downtown Indianapolis, and I've talked to a lot of merchants, and look, they pay rent based on, how many people are anticipated to be downtown at any given time. And here it was 150,000 people. Now they're down to somewhere between 15 and 20,000 people at any given time. Businesses can't sustain themselves with this lack of clientele downtown. I'm really worried about our bigger cities if people don't get back to work.
Bigger cities and the businesses that operate in them. And I think if we think of commercial real estate, the office space and requirement of any business today is different in 2021 than it was in 2019. What I would say that sort of a glimmer of hope for commercial real estate and those businesses that base themselves around it is, whilst we saw that productivity metric rise through early 2020, so at ActiveOps we help managers better manage staff who are working from home or working somewhere between home and the office. So we've got lots of data about performance over that period. Whilst productivity rose in the first part of 2020, it started to reduce over the course of the year. And there's some other key metrics as well that is what makes a great performing team that isn't just about production or productivity, but well-being, employee well-being. We certainly have seen and continue to see a reduction in that as we go through the year. And if you think about what poor well-being, what workplace stress causes, real business costs, sickness and attrition, there's surveys out there that suggest in 2021-22, the cost of sickness and attrition caused by workplace stress will be more than reducing productivity by allowing people to work at home.
Okay, so
most businesses I'm now working with are starting to implement what they call a hybrid working model. It's not working from home or the office, it's doing both. It's 2 or 3 days a week getting together to collaborate, to be creative, we're all humans, we're all animals. We like the act of congregation and getting together. And most businesses are now trying to implement a hybrid model to allow both home working and office-based working to be part of people's lives.
Spencer O'Leary is the CEO of ActiveOps North America. I want to circle back around to something you said at the beginning of that. At the beginning of the pandemic, productivity increased. It's stalled there, and it seems to be decreasing. Go back to why was productivity for people working at home increasing? Why did it increase? Why do you think? What were the factors?
One of the things we measure through our software is something we call digital distraction. So if you think of digital and non-digital distraction, when we work in an office, we're often distracted either by things that happen, events, or other people, and those distractions reduce greatly when we work from home. So it didn't surprise me that if I work for 8-9 hours in a normal working day in the office, I probably get 5 or 6 of actual work done. When I work from home, I get 7 or 8 of actual work done. The problem comes in, what was I doing in the hours when I'm in the office, when I'm not producing output? I was building a relationship with my team, with my colleagues. We were being creative. We were talking. We were thinking of new ideas. So they're the things that decrease as a sort of a negative impact of productivity increasing. And if we continue on this path, allowing people to work home 100% of the time, yes, there's an impact on real estate in downtown like we just talked about, but I think there's a real decrease in well-being, decrease in creativity, decrease in that ideas and innovation generation that we really want within our North American businesses across the board today.
Spencer, you obviously know that large companies are looking at these sort of surveys and seeing these results and seeing the value that people are placing on being able to work from home. How long until they kind of turn the tide on people and start using this for them as a bargaining chip to lower wages? I mean, I am concerned about that. Is that something you see on the horizon?
I think it's going to be a really interesting, probably somewhere between 6 to 18 month path that we now take. Because what we're starting to see is there is a won't work from the office and can't work from the office. And the can't work from the office are people who their lives changed through 2020, and they've maybe moved now away from the location that they used to live in, and it's impossible to commute. Maybe they're looking after those older relatives or children and don't want to go back to work. But there's definitely a reduction in the amount of the people available on the job market, which starts to give us a resource shortage. We've also got a massive amount of work that's coming back to the US and Canada from India and from the Philippines. They're still struggling with COVID. Working from home in a multi-generation household in India is near on impossible. So we're starting to see the demand for good talent increase, and the amount of talent available on the market is decreasing. The only thing that the market responds to that with is wage increase. What does that wage increase then mean for us as consumers if it's getting more expensive to process our bank accounts, our insurance claims, our healthcare claims? There's only one person that pays for this in the end, and that's the consumer. So that mixed with it's never been easier to change jobs. I get a new computer shipped in the mail. I sit at the same desk in my house, and tomorrow I could be processing work for a different bank or a different insurer. So if you take all those variables, a job market that's unstable, demand is outstripping supply of good talent, it's easy to change jobs, people are prepared to work for a bit less because it's less expensive and they want that flexible lifestyle. What an interesting 12 or 18 months I think we're going to see.
And it sounds to me like you're saying the next 12 or 18 months, the employees will still maybe have the upper hand here, the leverage.
I think if we look at the power balance in terms of what drives market demand and the outcome in the market, I think it's probably going to go towards the employee rather than the employer. So the key thing employers need to do today, it's what we're helping large businesses with right across North America, is you've got to be ready to be able to measure and manage a hybrid workforce. It doesn't matter whether your employees sat in the office at work, their office at home, they're sat in an airline lounge, or they're sat in Starbucks. Wherever they are, we need to be able to measure and manage our employees. So as managers, we can manage performance, we can manage well-being, regardless of where our resource pool is set.
Do you only work with large corporations? How is this affecting small businesses? Is this a different scenario with smaller local mom-and-pop businesses?
It's probably a different scenario in the sense of how hard is it to manage people's performance and people's well-being.
Yes.
The bigger you get, you tend to work across multiple locations, sometimes multiple time zones, multiple currencies, multiple languages if you go international. The job just gets harder and harder and harder to do. But for us, we're working with any business that employs more than 100 people, right up to some of the largest banks and insurance companies across North America. For the most part, the way that business has geared itself is a manager generally manages somewhere between 10 and 15 people, and it's that person that's given this impossible job. If you've got 15 people and you could use your eyes and your ears to manage them because you could see them and hear them every day, it was still hard to do. Ask that same person to now sit at home and manage those 15 people with no eyes and no ears, and the only time they see them is on a Zoom call or a Teams call. We've just made their job, 1,000,000% harder, and we need to equip them with the tools and the processes so they can do their job, in a capable and consistent way.
Spencer O'Leary, the CEO of ActiveOps North America. If anybody has any more questions, is there a website, a social media platform that you use?
There is, so have a look on our website, activeops.com. We've got a couple of events coming up. We're in Atlanta next week. We're in Tampa, Florida the week after, where we're hosting a hybrid roadshow where people can either come along in person or come along virtually and hear from a number of organizations like ActiveOps that are trying to equip the managers in the United States and in Canada with the tools and the processes so they can measure and manage in this crazy new hybrid world.
Absolutely fascinating. Spencer O'Leary, thank you so much. Hope to get an update for you here in 6 to 12 months.
That's great. Nice to be with you. Thank you.